Lily was 7 years old, a girl with a spark in her eyes and a heart that seemed to beat for something bigger than herself. She lived on her grandparents' farm in Willow Creek, a quiet town where fields stretched wide and neighbors kept to themselves. Her days were simple, collecting eggs from the henhouse, chasing fireflies as dusk settled, and dreaming of a friend who would understand her in a way no one else could. "One day," she'd say, her voice soft but fierce, "I'm going to find my real best friend." Her grandparents, Henry and Clara, would smile, their weathered faces softening, thinking it a child's fancy. But Lily's words were a vow, etched deep in her soul, waiting for the moment they'd come true. That moment arrived on a crisp October afternoon. Henry needed tools from a neighbor's property, a rundown patch of land on the edge of town where rust clung to every surface and weeds choked the ground. Lily tagged along, her sneakers crunching on gravel, her eyes darting to every shadow. Near a sagging barn, she saw movement. A German shepherd, thin and scarred, tethered to a fence post with a frayed rope. His fur was matted, his eyes dull, and one leg hung at an awkward angle, useless. Mud and straw clung to his body as if the world had forgotten him. Lily's heart twisted. She tugged at Henry's sleeve. "Grandpa, who's that dog?" The neighbor, a man with a face like cracked leather, shrugged. "Him? No good anymore. Hurt his leg. Can't hunt, can't guard. $5, and he's yours." Lily's hand went to her pocket, pulling out a crumpled $5 bill. Every cent she'd saved from sweeping the porch and gathering eggs for Clara. Her fingers trembled as she held it out. The man snatched it, muttering, "Your problem. Now, kid." Henry's brow furrowed, his hand resting on Lily's shoulder. "Sweetheart, he's in rough shape. You sure?" But Lily's gaze was locked on the dog, her jaw set. "He needs someone, Grandpa. I think he picked me." They untied the rope gently, expecting the dog to shy away. Instead, he stood, wobbly but willing, and followed Lily with slow, halting steps. In that quiet moment, a bond was forged, unspoken, but unshakable. They named him Bruno. The name came to Lily like a whisper, and when she said it, the dog let out a soft sigh, as if he'd been waiting to hear it his whole life. Back at the farm, Lily made him a bed in the barn, piling it with blankets and setting out a bowl of fresh water. She knelt beside him, her small hand stroking his matted fur. "You're safe now, Bruno," she whispered. His eyes met hers, tired but searching, and a flicker of hope stirred in their depths. Those first days were a test of patience. Bruno barely ate, his limp worsening with every step. He flinched at sudden noises, a door slamming, a crow cawing, his body tensing as if braced for pain. He didn't bark, didn't growl, just watched the world with a weary gaze that spoke of too many betrayals. Clara watched silently, her knitting needles pausing as she glanced at the barn. "That dog's been through hell," she said to Henry one night. "I don't know if he'll make it." Henry nodded, but his eyes were on Lily, who sat by Bruno's side reading him a tattered copy of Charlotte's Web. "She believes in him," he said. "That's something." Lily never wavered. Every morning, she greeted Bruno with a bright, "Good morning, buddy." She shared crusts of her sandwich, tucked her favorite stuffed rabbit beside him at night, and spent hours talking to him about her dreams, the stars over the fields, the stories she'd write one day. "You're gonna love it here," she'd say, her voice a lifeline. Slowly, Bruno began to respond. One evening, as Lily hummed a tune while brushing hay from her jeans, his tail gave a hesitant wag. It was small, barely noticeable, but to Lily, it was a miracle. "You're gonna be okay, aren't you?" she said, her grin lighting up the barn. That wag was proof of what she'd known all along. Bruno wasn't just healing his body. He was learning to trust, to love again. Henry started noticing things about Bruno that didn't add up. One night, as the family watched television, a military documentary flickered on. The sound of marching boots filled the room, and Bruno snapped to attention. His ears perked, his body stiffened, and he stood like a soldier awaiting a command. Lily tilted her head. "Grandpa, why'd he do that?" Henry's brow furrowed, but he said nothing, the question lingering like a shadow. The next morning brought another clue. Lily dropped a bucket of grain, the clang echoing through the barn. Before she could blink, Bruno darted forward, positioning himself between her and the sound, his eyes scanning for danger. Later, in a playful moment, Lily pointed her finger like a toy gun and shouted, "Bang!" Bruno dropped to the ground instantly, lying still as if playing dead. No one had taught him that. Henry watched from the porch, his coffee mug forgotten in his hand. "That dog's been trained," he said softly. "Not just tricks, serious training." Lily looked at Bruno, now curled up beside her, his breathing steady. "Maybe he forgot who he was," she said, her voice thoughtful. "Maybe he's remembering now." The truth came rushing in one evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold. Lily, chasing a butterfly, wandered too far into the woods behind the farm. Bruno trailed behind, his limp less pronounced but still evident. The air was still, the grass tall. Suddenly, a rustle shattered the silence, and a wild boar burst from the bushes, its tusks gleaming as it charged straight for Lily. She froze, her heart pounding. Bruno didn't hesitate. With a speed that defied his injuries, he launched himself between Lily and the boar, his bark a thunderous warning that echoed through the trees. He moved with precision, circling, dodging, and herding the animal away, his growls fierce and unrelenting. The boar, startled, retreated into the underbrush. When it was gone, Bruno returned to Lily, licking her hand gently as if to say, "You're safe." She sank to her knees, wrapping her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice breaking. The next morning, Henry woke with a purpose. "We need to get him checked properly," he told Clara, his voice firm. They took Bruno to Willow Creek's animal clinic, a small building nestled between the feed store and the bakery. Dr. Simmons, the town veterinarian, greeted them with a warm smile, his hands gentle as he examined Bruno. As he ran his fingers along the dog's neck, he paused. "There's something here," he said, pressing carefully. Moments later, he extracted a small metallic chip, damaged but intact. Using a scanner, he read the tag, and his eyes widened. "This dog isn't a stray," Dr. Simmons said, his voice tinged with awe. "His name's Bravo 9. He was part of a military canine unit, presumed dead 2 years ago in a transport explosion." Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Tears welled as she knelt beside Bruno, who licked her face gently. "You were a hero before I met you," she whispered. "But now you're my hero too." The revelation shook Lily to her core. Bruno wasn't just a broken stray, he was a warrior, a survivor who had served with courage and been left for dead. The $5 she'd paid wasn't just for a dog, it was for a second chance for both of them. Henry placed a hand on her shoulder, his own eyes misty. "You did good, kid," he said softly. Word of Bruno's story spread like wildfire. Dr. Simmons, moved by the discovery, called a local reporter, a former soldier named Tom who had a soft spot for stories of loyalty. Tom visited the farm, sitting with Lily as she recounted how she'd found Bruno, how he'd saved her from the boar. The article appeared in the Willow Creek Chronicle days later, under the headline, "Forgotten Canine Found by Girl Hero." The town buzzed with the news. People began arriving at the farm, neighbors with treats, children with drawings, strangers wanting to meet the dog who defied death. The community, once quiet and reserved, came alive. Clara found thank you notes and dog bones piled on the porch. A retired soldier named Mr. Callahan drove across 2 counties to meet Bruno. He knelt beside the dog, his voice thick as he said, "You saved more than lives on the battlefield, soldier. You reminded us what loyalty looks like." He shook Lily's hand, saluting Bruno before leaving. Lily watched, clutching Bruno's collar, her chest swelling with pride. The farm became a gathering place. Town's patent townsfolk, who had once kept to themselves, now stopped by, sharing stories of their own pets or memories of loved ones who'd served. Lily, shy at first, found herself at the center of it all. She'd sit on the porch, Bruno at her side, answering questions with a quiet confidence. "I didn't know who he was when I gave that $5, she told a small crowd one afternoon. I just knew he needed someone, and maybe I needed someone too. Her voice trembled, and she wiped a tear with her sleeve. They say, I rescued him, but I think he rescued me first. The crowd fell silent, eyes glistening. Bruno's tail wagged gently, as if he understood every word. Lily hugged him tightly, whispering, You're my best friend. There wasn't a dry eye in sight. As weeks turned to months, Bruno grew stronger. His limp faded, his coat regained its sheen, and his eyes sparkled with life. Lily and Bruno became inseparable, their days filled with small adventures, exploring the fields, playing fetch with an old tennis ball, or lying under the stars as Lily told him her dreams. She began to write their story in a notebook, her handwriting messy but earnest, filling pages with sketches of Bruno and notes about his bravery. The town, too, began to change. Inspired by Lily and Bruno, Willow Creek came together in new ways. The local school started a fundraiser to help injured animals, with Lily as the honorary chair. Neighbors organized cleanups, turning the once dreary outskirts into a place of pride. Bruno's story had sparked something, a reminder that even the smallest acts could ripple outward, healing not just one life, but an entire community. One evening, as winter crept in, Lily sat with Bruno in the barn, her breath visible in the chilly air. She pulled her stuffed rabbit from the blankets and tucked it beside him. You know, she said, I always wanted a best friend, and I found you. Bruno nudged her hand, his warmth steady against her. She smiled, her heart full. The $5 dog had become her hero, her companion, and proof that broken things could still shine. In the months that followed, Lily and Bruno's story spread beyond Willow Creek. Letters arrived from other towns, from veterans and children alike, all touched by the tale of a girl and her dog. Lily read each one aloud to Bruno, her voice steady now, no longer trembling. She was growing up, shaped by the courage she'd found in herself and the loyalty she'd found in him. On a spring morning, the town held a ceremony to honor Bruno. A small plaque was placed near the town square reading, To Bravo 9, a hero found, and Lily, who gave him a home. Lily stood before the crowd, Bruno at her side, his head held high. I didn't know what I was doing when I gave that man $5, she said, her voice clear. But I know now, it wasn't just about saving Bruno, it was about finding each other. The crowd cheered, and Bruno barked, a joyful sound that echoed through Willow Creek. Lily laughed, her hand resting on his back. They had both been lost, in their own way. But together, they had found their place. And in that moment, under a bright spring sky, Lily knew her dream had come true. She had found her real best friend, and he had found her too. But the story didn't end there. Lily began to train with Bruno, learning his old commands and teaching him new ones. She'd run through the fields, calling out words like, stay, and come, watching as he responded with a precision that spoke of his past. The townsfolk noticed too, and soon, children from the school joined in, turning the farm into a place of laughter and learning. Lily, once a quiet girl, became a leader, her confidence growing with every day spent with Bruno. The farm itself transformed.